What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here today for a little basketball talk. And I wanted to talk a little Luka today. We're going to do a little Luka player spotlight where we kind of just do a deep dive in on Luka's stuff across the board. A whole bunch of different cards. Entry level, mid-tier, upper tier. Not going to look at like super short print autos or numbered stuff or anything super crazy, but like silvers, court sides, all the way up to that neck of the woods. So using a bunch of market movers today. Link in the description below, coupon code, all that jazz. Like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff down below. Let's go ahead and dive in. So the reason I chose Luka, I've done these before. I did them last fall for a couple key players. I think I'm going to run them back as kind of like in the lead up to the season. What I'm curious to see is a couple things. What cards aren't moving up? What cards are moving up? Did anything obvious get left behind that is a potential pickup? And then just as a general overall health of the market type thing. The reason I choose Luka first is he is the golden boy of the NBA when it comes to the young players. You have Luka, you have Trey, you have Zion, you have Ja, Tatum. You know, I don't know if I put Giannis in their tier anymore. Giannis got his ring. He's elevated on. He's up there with KD and stuff now. You know, he's got his ring, different category. But of the young up-and-comers, the next generation, if you will, to me, Luka leads that charge. He leads it in price. He leads it in popularity. And he's one of my favorite players. So, it is what it is. So, we're going to look at a couple different tiers of Luka stuff and kind of see if anything has slipped through the cracks, what is moving, what isn't moving. And I like to use Luka as a general. He's one of those players, especially off-season stuff, to me anyway, that you could kind of judge the overall health of the hobby and maybe pull some larger trends out that are going on. It's a little dangerous to do that sometimes, but I think Luka is one of those guys. So if that doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. I get it. I get it. Up first, low-end entry tier stuff. We're going to be looking at all PSA 10s just to keep prices equal so that we don't have to worry about raw and all that nonsense. Entry-level stuff. Hoops, Donruss, and some Chronicles stuff. He has a million different Chronicles rookies. I just chose a handful of them. And I dated every chart that we're going to look at back to July 1st. What I have found, other than guys that went deep into the playoffs, Trae Young would be one of these. Giannis would obviously be one of these. And a handful of others. Most of the NBA bottomed out on or around the 4th of July. Like if you look at any zoomed out chart, they all go down. They kind of bottom out at the 4th of July, and then they all start slowly creeping back up again. So I'm using July 1st in every chart that we're going to look at as the starting point through, for future people watching this, September 20th. We are recording this on Monday evening, September 20th. About 3.5 to 4 weeks prior to the season actually getting going. So we still have a month to go on this stuff, so it could keep going. All right, back in. So his entry-level stuff. Let me zoom in a little bit here for you guys and girls. Base hoops, base Donruss. To me, this is the base hoops. This is the base Donruss. These are his two primary entry-level cards if you're looking to get in. Interesting thing here, they have not moved at all. The hoops is sitting at 200. The Donruss is sitting at 300. 1% down on the hoops. 4% up on the Donruss. Essentially flat. No change. I'm basically chalking that up as no change. Come down here to the Chronicles. I'm not a big fan of this Chronicles base at all. It pulled this because I chose base to get this other stuff as well. There are a ton of other Luka cards I would rather have over this one. So I'm not, it is up 23%, 130 to 160, but I am not big on that card at all. Now, the two that I do like, my two favorite cards from Chronicles, and I am 100% biased on this. I own one raw and I own one in a PSA 10. I am a sucker for the Chronicles Classic. So this just looks like a classic old school baseball card like I collected when I was a kid. And then the score version looks like the old score stuff I also collected as a kid. Big fan of these. Really like the way they look. I have this in a PSA 10. I have the Score Raw. These also have not done much. The Chronicles Classic, $220, 3% down. The Score, 198 to 220, a 10% bump. Really not much of anything. Not surprised. Chronicles is really forgotten about. It really takes the Luka market to heat up to move some of this lower end stuff. And I'm not really surprised that this stuff hasn't moved at all. Actually, I take that back. I'm a little surprised it hasn't crept up at all. It's basically stayed perfectly flat. And I think you're going to notice a trend here. A lot of the common base stuff stayed pretty flat. We're really going to see it on the next page. So essentially, if you wanted to jump into low-end Luka base, you could still get in. You know, not everyone can afford $5,000 Luka Optic Holo PSA 10s. I get it. But if you like Luka and like the player, $200 for a PSA 10 base hoops, not bad. If he plays really well, it should, in theory, go up. Who knows? But if you want to get into some Luka, that's not a bad place to be. I would look at PSA 9s and some other stuff first before going to a PSA 10 hoops, but you get the point. Let's get into like the next tier up stuff before we get into the more mainstream base. And what I mean by mainstream base is Optic, Prism, and Select. Before we get there, let's look at Threads, Revolution, and Status. We'll start with Status first. Also a very low-end product. They don't make this anymore. Well, actually they do. It's Status T-Mall, at least for 19. I don't know if they're making it for 20. It's one of those finicky products that doesn't always get a release or it gets thrown in with Chronicles or something like that. He has two different versions of the cards. I think one's from different retail exclusives, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. I'm not a big Status guy at all. They're both down slightly. The Rookies 1 is down 3%. The Rookies 2 is down 6%. They're fine cards. There are many other options I would choose to dive into over the Status. Threads no longer exists. It did get folded into Chronicles. I always had a little bit of a soft spot for Threads. I just kind of like the way these cards look. I think they look kind of clean. There's dazzled versions of these cards that actually do quite well. We're just looking at base here. And you can see these have actually performed okay. The white jersey is up 55%. The blue jersey is up 63%. And this hybrid jersey statement is what they're calling it, is up 6%. So not much of a swing there. I guess that one might be an interesting play that is kind of getting left behind. One is not sold since the end of August, so that's almost 20 days since the last sale. So that gets a little tricky as well. But low pop, 228, 375, 200 on these. I like these for entry level Luka cards. This is more, to me, this is more of a collector's card, if you will. It's got the jersey on it. Looks really cool. If you had a nice Luka display on your desk or whatever in a cabinet, these would look really good in there, in my opinion. I think they're investable as well because it's Luka. If all the stuff goes crazy up, these will go with it. But there are other cards I would choose before this. My favorite entry-level Luka card, and it's still a little pricey in a PSA 10, and especially it has gone up quite a bit, Revolution. I do own one of these, full disclosure. These are just absolutely great-looking cards. Photos do not do them justice. I really, really like the 18 Revolution. 19 looks pretty good, too. I think I like 18 a little better. This blue looks absolutely fantastic on the card in person. I've showed it on camera before on streams and stuff. And on pickups. These are absolutely fantastic looking cards. Low pop, 740. This card has done pretty well. This was $340 back on July 1st. Currently $458, 34% increase. I'm not surprised by this because I view Revolution as the best of the non-chrome cards. This is a paper card, but they look absolutely gorgeous, like I said. So I'm not surprised that this one's performing pretty well. If I was looking to get into a cheaper Luka, this is the direction I would look at for sure, even at the slightly increased price, because I just frankly think it's a great looking card. Maybe look at PSA 9s if you want to get something in a little bit cheaper. All right, let's go to his True Blue main base cards. We have the base Optic, base Prism, Premier Level, Concourse Select, and I had to throw Mosaic in here because technically this is a Mosaic base card. I do not view this as base. I'm not going to talk about it like it's a base card, but it ended up on this list because this is the charts that I ran for base stuff. So It is what it is. Optic up 25% once again since July 1st. Base Prism 3% change. Interesting. Select Premier level 60% change. This card's really rallied last month. I own one of these. I was way underneath on it. I think I paid $1,200 for mine. It has really rallied back the last 3 or 4, maybe even 5 sales. It's really come back strong. Base Concourse up 47%. So let's talk through these really quick. Let me swing back to, I'll hit the Mosaic really quick. Mosaic, once again, not technically a base card. Absolutely gorgeous looking card. Up 24%. I think that's very fair. I think that's a really good price for that still. These are low pop and really good looking cards, and Mosaic 17, 18, and 19, 17 and 18 are gaining a lot of steam, even 16. They are a separate set. They were not the Mosaic like we have now with Zion and Ja and LaMelo. These were an insert set to Prism. It was a standalone product, or an inserted product, a subset, if you will, of Prism. They didn't have hobby boxes or blasters. I think they actually had hobby boxes. I don't remember. It was a weird thing, regardless. But subset of Prism, not its own full release like it is now. Extremely low population, extremely good looking cards. I think these are going to continue to gain steam. That's why, if you remember from my national pickups video, I was buying these up left and right back in the summer at the National. Optic base, doing pretty good, up 25%. Not surprising to me, fairly low pop at 4,400. A lot of people, like myself, suckers for the rated rookie logo. Base Prism not moving at all is intriguing because as we've seen so far, some of his more nicer stuff, you know, base Optic, I'm going to put to me is on par. If not, I actually prefer the aesthetics of base Optic better than base Prism. But a little higher end stuff like the Revolution up 30-some%. Mosaic up 25%. Base Prism up 3%. I think this all comes down to the population count. It takes a lot to move this number because there are so many of them out there. It's really going to take a ton to move that number because there's always, with a pop that high, there's always someone willing to sell. When you get into the lower pop stuff and the player gets hot, the prices can move up faster because there's not as many people willing to sell at current prices. So it has to sit until someone reaches up and smacks a bin at a higher comp than what it previously was, or an auction to get listed, and if the player's hot, a feeding frenzy to induce. A lot of times what you'll see is a lower pop card that doesn't have recent comps that no one wants to move at current comps will come up for auction. There'll be a feeding frenzy for it. It'll push the comp up to right at the old bins. That one will sell at auction, and then a bunch more. If any bins are priced around that spot, all those buy it nows will get gobbled up because the new comp's established with the auction, and then everyone runs and grabs those that have been sitting there for a month. Sometimes it's okay to just go out and smack the bin if you think it's a good deal. Maybe it's $300 to $400 over comp. If it's a super low pop card, sometimes it's the right call. Get ahead of the game. But just do your homework on that to make sure you're diving in at the right place. But that's why I think this number has not moved basically at all. And I think it's going to take a lot to get that number up. If he gets a lot of hype in the preseason and he plays extremely well out of the gates, you know, he's dropping triple doubles left and right. KP looks good, whatever. Maybe this gets back to $1,000 card. I just think it's going to take a lot to move that base Prism price. I think the other stuff will fluctuate a lot more, like we see with this select. Now, why is this select up so much? I have a couple theories on this. My biggest one is this card got hammered in the summer, right around the time when the hate on select was at its peak. The NBA market was in its summer freefall. Luka had been eliminated. The 2020 select football and 2020 select football had come out. And the parade of what the hell has Panini done to select was making its rounds. It was going around the block, throwing candy out to all the kids. I think that had a hard hit on the older select, even though older select is low pop. I mean, look at these. His premier level pop 650. and the concourse is pop 1600. Not astronomical, not crazy. I get pop, also has the demand side. It's not just about the pop number. Just low pop does not equal high prices. Not always. But I do think Select was unfairly or harshly penalized on the pricing side. I think what happened when the Luka market started to rebound, people were like, oh, well, this is too cheap for this. Let me start buying these up. And because they're lower pop, they move up a little bit quicker and make bounces up faster. So that's my theory on why Select is up so much compared to the others. This number feels more real, the Optic number at 25%. I think this 50 to 60% number, it's real because there's comps based off of it. But I think it had a further way to go because it fell a lot farther than any of the other stuff. His Select stuff all Select stuff got absolutely hammered in the summer. Like if you looked at the downward graphs, theirs were going down way faster than everything else. So that's my theory on that one. Let's move into his mainstream higher end cards. And what I mean by that, silvers, that sort of stuff. So we have the Luka Optic Holo, Silver Prism, Concourse Silver, and Premier Level Silver. I looked at Field Level Silver. None have sold since July 1st. That card's like pop sub 20, I think, in a PSA 10. They don't come up very often. Once again, base Prism up 3% over this same time period. Base Optic up 25%. His higher dollar stuff is performing pretty well, especially on the Optic and Prism level. Now here, we see Select did not move up as much. 11% and 20%. Now, I think part of the problem is, which I don't think a lot of people realize this, Select Silvers, Premier, and Concourse are almost always very similar pop. The Premier level is actually not much rarer, if at all, than the Concourse. It has to do with the way that the cards are distributed and the number of silvers you could get per box and all that jazz. If you pop over here, his Premier level base is pop 650. His Concourse base is 1600. When you look at silvers, silver is 200 on the Concourse and 200 on the Premier, 194 and 192. And they sell for essentially the same price. The Concourse actually goes slightly more. A lot of people prefer the aesthetics of the Concourse. So these two numbers being only at 10 to 20% up does not surprise me because I think these two cards cancel each other out a lot. Optic Holo up 42%. Not surprised by this. I've been saying for a long time, Optic Holos are criminally underrated. And at least in Luka, we're not going to look at Trey today, but Treys as well have seen some of the best gains out of this market of cards over the summer. Prism Silver up 25%. So nice come up there. Once again, we go back to here. His Prism Base is only up 3%, but his Prism Silver's up 24%. And then Optic Holo up 42%. These both feel perfectly fine at these numbers. Last but not least, his more quirky stuff. I could have picked, and if I didn't pick your favorite card, no offense, Luka has about 76 million different prisms, selects, optics, this, that, and the other things, variations, numbered stuff, whatevers. And I wanted to run the line of being a non-silver, non-base card, but also something that I'd actually have comps on. When you look at some of the numbered stuff, there's just not sales data to back up enough to actually see what's going on. So this is what I went with. Optic Blue Velocity, Optic Shock, Prism Green, Prism Red Ice, Ruby Wave, and Select Courtside Base. I'm going to lump this in with the higher end stuff. Blue Velocity up 25%. Absolutely gorgeous looking card. Shock up 65%. I'm actually shocked that the Shock is up that much. I'm not a fan of the Shocks, not 18s anyways. I don't think they're great looking cards. The price reflects that. $1,600 for this. The Blue Velocity goes for $3K. It's a jersey match. It's an absolutely fantastic looking card. I missed my window on this one. I wish I would have grabbed one earlier in the summer when it was a lot cheaper. It is what it is. I could have had one for the low 2Ks right before the National, and I didn't want to buy it because I wanted to keep that money free for the National. Is what it is. But that's up 25%. A couple ones that I'll note here. The Red Ice only being up 5%. One has not sold in almost 30 days. And same with the Courtside. Now, the interesting thing about the Courtside, this is sitting at 5K as last comp. up 3%, and that was on August 26th. I looked. I was curious to see the cheapest one out there. There's actually one for 4,500 bin that you could just grab this right now. Now, to me, that's a little interesting. That's a bigger card than I want to buy. But here's his, it's the top line on this graph here. My mouse is going all over the place. You know, here's a 4.8, a 4.4, a 4K, a 4.5, and then a 4.95. So I guess the most recent comp, you know, would actually, this card would actually be down a little bit. Because there's one sitting right now at 4,500. So to me, the real price is probably like low fours would be my guess. This is only pop 200. To me, this is one of his best base cards you could buy. Is what it is on the price. That's a lot to spend on a base card. I get it. Personally, for that price, I would rather pop over and snag an Optic Holo. It's slightly more pop, but it's a much sexier looking card with the silver. So, but that one's actually down a little bit. Once again, Red Ice, no recent sales. I did look at this one. The cheapest bin on this is mid to low fours. I think everything else has a September number to it. Some are about a week old, but in general, you could find a fairly recent comp on these. So that's kind of the Luka rundown. Like I said, interesting to me that his base Prism is flat. I am not surprised by that. It seems like most of his stuff is about right. You know, if you look at this at 25% up, 42% up, I guess my big takeaway is I don't see anything that slipped through the cracks, at least out of the stuff that we looked at. You know, his higher end stuff, this all seems correct. I'm not surprised by this select number being lower than Prism and Optic because of like what we talked about, the nature of that product. On his higher end stuff, this all looks normal to me, the stuff that has recent comps. So on this, the particular cards that I chose, you know, these prices feel about where they should be. Revolution being up 35% feels normal. This might be the only one, this Luka Thread statement, when his other stuff is up quite a bit, but I'm guessing, so 330, is there even any of these for sale? 400 is the cheapest. And they're just sitting there at 400. 399 or best offer. So it's with best offer, chance you could probably even get it cheaper than that. And don't run out and just click the bin on Threads statement. That's not a product I am super familiar with. I just always like the looks of it. I don't own any of it. So is what it is. Curious for your thoughts and opinions on the Luka market. And then we still have 3 weeks to go before the season officially starts. So we will see what happens with his prices between now and the start of the season. If there's another player you'd like to see something similar like this on, let me know in the comments down below. I am open to doing more of these. I can tell you right now, I will probably do a Trey one and maybe a Zion and Ja one at some point in time. Maybe I'll combine some of those together. We'll see. We'll see what the feedback is on this video. But if you guys and girls like this one, let me know and we'll see if we can run it back with a few other players. So like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff down below. Catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.